I'm going on 4 years. I've worked here at this sector. When I first started, the heroin epidemic actually had just begun. As it gets later in the day, that's when you start seeing more of the overdoses happening. Because we will have situations where a bad batch, I don't know if there's ever a good batch of heroin, but a bad batch of heroin goes out and we start getting man down calls everywhere. So
743, 730, 5870, Southwest Boston Trail.
This is probably overdose.
Nights in. Female is possibly dying.
Yep.
242 Alpha.
Male and a female inside the ground, all third party.
Investigators call prescription drugs this generation's crack cocaine.
America's worst drug crisis ever.
More people are dying from drug overdoses today than from gun homicides and motor vehicles combined.
Florida's opioid crisis.
Opioid addiction.
Epidemic levels.
Opioids.
I went to the emergency room with a toothache when I was 24 years old, and they gave me 60 hydrocodone 10s, and that's how it all begun. It took a couple years, but just going from stronger pills to stronger pills, and then with the Oxycontin and the oxycodone, those are highly, highly addictive. I got into those, and then when the FDA cracked down on it, made it hard to get. Me and thousands of other people switched from pills to heroin. I mean, it's the same high. It's an opiate, just like the pain pills were. It's the exact same high. Same side effects, same withdrawals.
An opioid is a class of drugs which bind to certain areas in the brain that help control pain and alleviate pain. They're all essentially derived from the poppy plant, which is where most opioids come from.
The poppy, an innocent little plant that produces a milky fluid, a natural juice called opium, which is the essence of heroin, the most destructive narcotic man has ever devised.
They were designed to alleviate pain. So when you ingest them or take them or have them injected like in a hospital, they get into the bloodstream and they affect the brain.
Your oxycodone, your hydrocodone.
Vicodin, Percocet, codeine, tramadol, these are all in the same family of what we call opioids. If you consider that that is in the same family of drugs as heroin, you realize why there's such a crossover.
And obviously I'm not a doctor, but I know enough about heroin that heroin is an opiate. Just like, hydrocodone is made, just like Oxycontin is made. Those are just made in the lab and, FDA approved. Heroin is obviously the illegal form of that, but it's still an opiate, and it basically attaches to the receptors in your brain, giving you that euphoric feeling that people are looking for.
I think I was about 21 when I first started really taking painkillers heavy. So that was the first time where I started taking doses that, would really give me a good feeling. And immediately I remembered I enjoyed it. Just the feeling, I had this feeling of like a warmth and ease kind of just go through me. And I remember feeling like this is what I had been looking for. And I had this friend who, she was actually a pharmacy student. And I remember one time I was calling somebody trying to get more pain pills. And I was telling her, I just enjoy taking them because I like to take it and just lay on the couch and watch movies. And, they make me feel good. And she started crying almost. And she said, one day you're going to become a heroin addict. And, in my mind, that was absurd. Never in my life was I ever going to do heroin. It wasn't too long after that, and I did.
If you look back to the 1960s, you ask heroin addicts from the 1960s, how did you get involved with opiates? Well, heroin was their entree to opiates. If you look at the current day heroin users, about 3/4 of them will tell you, no, it was prescription drugs for me. If you go back to the late 1990s, there was a national movement to help alleviate medical pain and suffering. Unfortunately, I think many of us underestimated the addictive potential and the deadly potential that these drugs had. We were encouraged by many sources, everywhere from state boards to pharmaceutical companies, to prescribe higher amounts to really get on top of the pain, or as they would say, get ahead of the pain.
We are in complete agreement. But I do not agree with the statement made here today that Purdue has marketed OxyContin aggressively. That is simply not the case. We have not promoted this product as less abusable.
Now, in fact, the rate of addiction amongst pain patients who are treated by doctors is much less than 1%.
And we have not promoted it as a substitute for less abusable opioids.
And so these drugs, which I repeat are our best, strongest pain medications, should be used much more than they are for patients in pain.
So then you start looking at all that and you feel that the drug is not habit-forming or addictive, so you feel like it's okay to prescribe it.
We plotted out, this is just oxycodone, the number of deaths in Florida, and we correlated it with the grams that have been prescribed and distributed legally. You don't see correlations like this in biostatistics, where we had a 99% correlation. The question is, how does this relate to heroin?
Yeah, I think that ultimately the big overdose problem and the heroin problem that we're seeing locally as well as nationally has a direct result of the pill mills.
Florida leads the nation in the number of lethal pills prescribed by unscrupulous doctors, so-called pill mills.
Storefront clinics like this one prescribe 9 million pills in one 6-month period.
We saw the overprescription of pain medication by doctors that has gone on for years. People became addicted to pain medication. With that, the pill mill abuse started. We had people here in Florida, was one of the worst states for people coming in and getting fraudulent prescriptions filled. People were coming in from all over our country to do that.
When we looked at 2010 and DEA looks at how much oxycodone was prescribed in a 6-month period, we prescribed over 41 million pills, and that was more than all 49 states combined.
As fast as you could tell them what you was taking, whatever you wanted, writing it down just as fast. Doctor would walk out. 3 minutes later, a nurse would come in. Here's your scripts and your appointment for next month. It was that easy.
When I was in high school just a few years earlier, it wasn't like this big thing, and all of a sudden these kids just a few years behind me, they're talking about, you know, doing Roxys all the time and morphine.
Like I was going to 2 doctors a month. I was getting 180 from one and 180 from another. And then when they linked all the pharmacies together, that's when everything dried up in Florida, because everyone could only go to 1 doctor, and I know guys that were going to 5 or 6 doctors, getting 5 or 6 scripts a month.
We cracked down on them. I think our Attorney General did a really good job on cracking down on the doctors and cracking down on these illegal pill mills.
Attorney General Pam Bondi cracked down on pill mills in the state. That, coupled with the DEA leveling multi-million-dollar fines on CVS and Walgreens because of how companies were filling narcotic prescriptions.
It appeared promising. Like most things in life, it came with a catch: supply and demand.
Something had to step in and fill that void. You essentially created a bunch of people that became addicted to pain medication and now didn't have the ability to get anything for it. What happened? Drug dealers got smart, said, what can we do? Fill that void. They slid in heroin.
So heroin was what we were dealing with in 2014. 2015, towards the end of 2015, is when we saw synthetic fentanyl.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that can be 50 times stronger than heroin itself.
That's essentially used for cancer patients to relieve their pain.
But back then, fentanyl was medicine grade, meaning it was in a patch. That was the main thing. It was fentanyl patches. So people were either intentionally or unintentionally overusing them. About 2 or 3 years ago, we started seeing street fentanyl come in.
So it's being mass produced in China and in Mexico, and it's being delivered across our borders through different areas, Canada, Mexico, into Texas, and then shipped all over our country.
It looks like heroin. It was probably being sold by drug traffickers and drug dealers on our street as heroin, but it had lethal doses of fentanyl in it.
Again, go back to your baseline. Morphine is 1, heroin about 10 to 15 times more powerful than morphine. Fentanyl is about 100 times more powerful than morphine. And so, again, you figured that out. It's almost logarithmic, the potency. So you need much, much less of it to get that high or to become fatal. In a nutshell, that's kind of the trend we saw. We saw prescription painkillers, then we saw heroin, then we saw medication-grade fentanyl, such as patches, then we saw street fentanyl.
Most of the heroin that we find in Orange County is laced with fentanyl, if it's not pure fentanyl.
And it really took analyzing that, going through toxicology to see exactly what was the drug.
But the backroom chemists or the illegal chemists, they'll change the chemical structure just a little bit so it becomes a new drug. For us, we're always a couple steps behind, because once they make it, we first have to detect it as a different drug, then we have to find standards to figure out how to measure it and quantify it. So we're always a little behind. So that's when you hear terms out in the news such as acetylfentanyl or methoxyacetylfentanyl or fluorofentanyl.
Carfentanil is one that people talk a lot about.
And that is an analog as well, but that was created in the 1970s in an actual pharmaceutical company. What its use was for was large animal tranquilizers. So we're talking about when you go and you watch a documentary in the jungle or in the desert plains of these large animals, and they tranquilize them, or in zoos, they're using carfentanil. And again, if you use that based on the morphine as a 1, heroin about 10 to 15 times more powerful, fentanyl about 1,000 times more powerful, carfentanil is up to 10,000 times more powerful. And so you can imagine if you get any of this drug in you, it can be fatal instantly.
The really dangerous thing is respiratory arrest, which is stopping breathing. The tolerance that people get for its therapeutic effects grows faster than the body's tolerance for the cessation of breathing. So if you let that sit in for a moment, you realize someone would use more and more to achieve the desired effect, whether it be pain control or a high, but they'll more quickly exceed that to the point where they stop breathing.
So you pretty much go to sleep and your breathing slowly stops, but your heart's still beating until your breathing stops.
And that's why nationally, on a daily basis, about 120 Americans per day are dying from this. The attempt to get a high is basically going to keep driving somebody to the inevitable end, which would be stopping breathing. As few as 3 days of being on a prescription drug can lead to chronic opioid addiction.
This drug epidemic that we're facing now with heroin and with fentanyl has definitely changed how law enforcement does things in our community. Some of the stuff that might be cool to film, I think this law enforcement today in Orange County, we understand that the user is an addict, that the user has a sickness, and I would no more make fun or accuse someone who has cancer of being a dirtbag than I would someone who has a drug addiction. We have to change that stigma. We have to look at them differently. This is our sheriff, Jerry Demings. He actually was just voted as the new mayor of Orange County. People I don't think they understand that most addicts want help. Certainly the heroin addict is absolutely in the top of that. They don't want to feel the way that they do. They don't want to steal. They don't want to rob. They don't want to prostitute themselves. The different things that they do in order to get money to get their drug. Most of society doesn't understand. is that this addict is a functioning addict in most cases. They're your plumbers, they're your mechanics, they're your doctors, and probably in a lot of cases, they're your police officers. You know, they've got an addiction problem.
Drug use never discriminates. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter where you live, what age you are.
It affects every member of society, really.
I've seen teenagers die of opiates, and I've seen people up into the 70s or 80s die of opiates.
And it can take just that one time, that one prescription pain medication, that for some people that's it, and they're addicted to these powerful substances.
My name is Bruce McMullen. I'm a captain with the Sheriff's Office. You know, this is it's a large metropolitan area, about 1.5 million people that live in Orange County permanently. And you know, it's a big city and it has big city problems. And the deputy sheriffs and the municipal police officers that work in this town or this county, just like any other maybe larger metropolitan area, are exposed to a lot of things, a lot of stressful situations, dangerous encounters, risk to their own safety, things that they've never seen before, and they're exposed to that in a pretty short amount of time. I mean, this opiate thing, opiates are very, very addictive. You know, very hard to kick the habit, so to speak. These folks get physically sick if they don't get their fix for the day. And a lot of folks that have these heroin problems, they're functional, they have jobs, but they need a fix or two every day to keep, to kind of keep it under control. And sometimes they buy some heroin that's a little bit hotter, or maybe it's fentanyl, and they dose themselves as normal, and then they overdose because it's such a powerful narcotic. And I'm being told that one of the spots that's been hot lately for open air drug use is on the right there. So we'll pull up there and see if we can see a little trail we can walk down. Well, this is somebody's camp, so to speak. I mean, you can see where somebody's been sleeping here. They have a tarp up, got some belongings, clothes. This is how folks wind up. You know, they're living in a place like where we're standing, to where maybe 6 months ago they had a job, they had a house, you know, they had a normal life, and then they have, developed this problem, wind up out here, so.
Yes, it's a real eye-opener when you actually see how people are living just to be able to do that drug. And they're all homeless because of that. If they actually took the money that they make, they could be living in a house, but they spend it all on heroin. So.
You think a lot of that started with pills?
Oh yeah, 90% of the people I know that do heroin, it started out with pain pills. At least I'm working now and got a roof over my head. When the company I was working for sold out, I'd worked for them for 10 years. I started panhandling. I was living on the streets out there in John Young and Sand Lake. Me and my pregnant old lady, she was on heroin too, pregnant. But panhandled for a year straight to support my habit rather than robbing and stealing from people. And between the two of us, we were making $200 or better a day. And why we weren't in a motel room, I have no idea. We just spent it all on dope. And we had our camp set up pretty nice, and we were in a tent with a queen-size air mattress and solar lights and solar fan and shit, but we could have been living a lot better and still been feeding our habit. I started out with pain pills and progressed to this. I've lost everything in the last 11 years. Every time I get ahead, do good for a while and slip up and right back into it. It is the worst thing I've ever had to deal with in my life is opiate addiction. It's terrible. I mean, I get depressed like anyone, but I try to be positive. I'm a real positive person. I try to stay that way. can't say that I've never had a gun in my mouth, but, you know, I didn't go that far, you know, just because of my kids, but that was all over part of my addiction too, you know, just so sick of it. But my oldest son has always kept me going. You know, he's got hemophilia A, severe bleeding disorder, and yeah, he's a tough kid, man. He's been through a lot, and I can't really feel sorry for myself looking at everything he's gone through, you know. So I try to stay positive about shit, you know. Try my hardest. Luckily, I've been blessed with a decent job again, so I can support my habit that way rather than, you know, panhandling and holding a sign.
He's an A1 plumber, and besides that, a great person.
Yeah, try to work every day, so you know, keep it flowing.
All right.
Work just to stay well. Terrible way to be living, man. Like 120 for a gram, 60 for a half, so anywhere from like 120 to 180 a day.
So you got to come up with a lot of money every week.
Yeah.
Every month, that's like.
Yeah, the sad part is I come. Yeah, the sad part is I come up with it, and I spend that just about every day. It's Mike. Mike in the red van, man. I used to come out there with Tasha. I used to come out there with Tasha in the black car. The black Chevy, man. I don't think that's one of their numbers anymore.
It's like this full-time job where I wake up in the morning, I'm already feeling sick, and I already have to figure out what am I going to do today to manage to get the drugs that I have to get. Calling people to meet them to go get what you need. I knew I could call a certain amount of people from either 7 a.m. in the morning or till 7 p.m. at night. So my whole day revolved in that time frame.
Basically, you know, they've got about 3 or 4 different phones they work, and you call them up. The guy on the other end tells you where to go. You know, you'll pull up into a parking lot somewhere. It's usually a parking lot, busy parking lot, and there's usually, you know, 5 to 10 other cars waiting there, and you know, they'll tell you where to go. And when the guy pulls up, everyone goes to the car and gets what they need and goes about their way.
Basically, if I'm the main drug dealer, I would get my phone. I'd have a bunch of contacts in it, and I had these massive group texts I would send out. And I'd be like, okay, today I'm going to be at, you know, the Florida Mall. I'll be in a silver, you know, pickup truck, and I just send a hit. And then before long, you'd see people start flocking to the Florida Mall, and they would be standing around waiting. And then a silver pickup truck would pull up, and there'd be a line of people being served.
At this Walmart just down the street, an Applebee's, even a local barbecue joint during the lunch hour.
And in the parking lot of this 7-Eleven, right at a busy intersection, undercover agents spot 103 bags of heroin.
There's a Blossom Park right on 441 and the Turnpike.
Blossom Park. That was my first contact with the heroin problem.
There you just go up to the apartment, and it was on the 3rd floor, and there would literally be 3 flights of people standing in line to go up there and cop. They had guys on the roof watching for cops.
Guys with, you know, guns patrolling hallways, and lines of people stacked around a building. And then it took us about 2 years of combating that issue before, between us and code enforcement, we were able to get it shut down. Get everybody, the good people moved out, relocated.
In all, they arrested 8 people, confiscated cocaine, heroin, a shotgun, ammo, and around $30,000 in cash.
The Blossom Park condominiums are now condemned for serious code violations like unsafe stairwells, sagging walkways, water damage, mold, and bug infestation.
this place finally gets demolished, who knows what we'll find in here, you know? Scary. When we had the big resurgence of heroin here in this area, just by the nature of the place, this kind of became ground zero for a lot of that heroin activity, a lot of the opiate activity. Sheriff's office. So the sheriff's office and local government and some private partners kind of all got together along with Sheriff Demings, and we realized that we had to take immediate and decisive action.
The Heroin Task Force was created back in 2015.
Thank you for attending the fourth meeting of the Heroin Task Force.
That was where our Sheriff, Jerry Demings, as well as our Mayor, Teresa Jacobs, decided to put together a diverse group of professionals to try to attack our heroin problem. And they brought people in from different disciplines. You know, we have educators, we have treatment people, we have doctors, we obviously have law enforcement, we have, you know, lawyers and judges, and just, we have all these people that came together to try to find a solution to our problem.
Really briefly, I just wanted to get everybody up to speed on what heroin is. Heroin is an opiate.
Finally, how do we get a treatment surge? Because we obviously have a crisis here.
If they don't get away from the drug, they're going to overdose eventually, or they're going to die. That's just the bottom line here.
For 6 months, the task force met, and those 23 members divided up into subcommittees, and that's really where the work gets done. So there was a law enforcement subcommittee, a treatment subcommittee, healthcare, and then education and prevention. And what we quickly saw is those committees started cross-sectoring one another. So it wasn't just staying in their silo.
And we kind of get together and we kind of talk about what we do and what they do. And that's when it affects me, and you see the bigger picture of what the opioid epidemic is. It's not just numbers going up and more people dying. It affects all these different things.
So probably one of the most important recommendations that we talked about during the task force is getting into the hands of our first responders, that's law enforcement, emergency medical service personnel, was this drug called naloxone.
Well, I'm so happy you're talking about naloxone, because you're going to save thousands of lives, what you're doing today. This is the greatest invention ever. Something like this that can save. And like I said, those 200 lives that are lost every day, could be prevented if everybody was carrying it, if every addict had this in their pocket, if every medicine cabinet had it, maybe in every restaurant, every bar.
And what naloxone does is the opioids bind to receptors in our brain. Some of those receptors are receptors that control our breathing, so it'll block the breathing. What naloxone does is it knocks that drug off and takes its place so that the effect is gone. And so what we'll see is this like almost a miraculous rising from the dead, people who look in blue.
He's not breathing.
And it comes in different forms. There's versions where you can inhale it, so spray it through the nose like a nasal spray.
Go left nostril. I-6 Narcan deployed in the left nostril.
And within 2 to 5 minutes after laying on the ground, turning blue, 2 to 5 minutes, they'll be sitting up telling you what they took.
But you don't actually even need a doctor's prescription. You can go to a variety of the commercial pharmacies in the area, and they will give it to you based on a standing prescription.
You know, I carry my naloxone with me. My nasal naloxone is something that I carry with me, and I have it in case I need it. All our uniformed personnel have it. Our drug agents carry it, and it's something that we think, since we started using it officially in around July of 2016, we've saved close to 300 people.
People take good health and life for granted. And 3 years ago, I was totally naive. I never heard the word Narcan or naloxone. The drug epidemic wasn't even in my thoughts. Unfortunately, it took having it come to my home and my beautiful 18-year-old daughter dying from a drug overdose when she had a beautiful life ahead of her.
We're learning more now about what caused the death of 18-year-old Victoria Siegel.
Yes, she's the daughter of Westgate Resorts founder David Siegel and his wife Jackie Siegel. Victoria Siegel was found unresponsive and was pronounced dead at the hospital June 6th.
This epidemic has no discrimination in terms of wealth, lack of wealth, race, religion, creed. It has no discrimination. It affects everyone.
Heroin stuff, man. There's fentanyl, there's these overdoses, man. There's so many people that have died. You know how they live forever? Because we make them meaningful. We use their stories a little bit, like you're using these stories and you're telling people, listen, I don't care what you're doing. Of course you can stop. It's going to be difficult, but of course there's a stop to this. There's all levels of stop to this. Well, my name is Louis Delgado. I'm a certified addictions professional. I started doing treatment back in 1993. I mean, I actually started working in hospitals around 1990. But I didn't get actually involved in seriously working with the addiction population until 1993 when I graduated University of Central Florida. And I got recruited by a doctor. He just heard that I knew a little bit about addiction. I don't think he knew that I was in recovery or anything like that. He just kind of heard that I was working well with that population. But there's people that are going to stop by never even starting, and there's people that are going to stop by picking up the phone right after they watch this. There's people that for some reason they're going to hear something in this whole thing that you're doing, and all of a sudden, even though they heard it like 50 million times before, all of a sudden it's going to resonate that day.
You know, that day he calls me and my friend tells me, he goes, listen, man, I don't want you to be upset, but your dad called me. He's worried about you. And, you know, I told him everything that was going on. And, of course, my first reaction is, you know, why'd you do that? And then we start talking, and he tells me, no, I told him, and he wants to help you, you know, find treatment. So that kind of took away a lot of the fears, because there's this big fear that I always had of telling anybody, of like reaching out for help, asking for help. Because we have, I think anyways, I always felt growing up like there was always this sense of I need to be able to take care of myself on my own, do things without other people's help. And if I get myself into a problem, I need to find a way to get myself out. But unfortunately, addiction, especially opiate addiction, there's no way for you to get out on your own. Like, there was no way for me to get out on my own. And so I told my friend that, you know, I was actually thankful that he had told my father. So then he tells me, he goes, you're not mad? And I said, no, I'm not mad. So he goes, okay, I got to tell you something else. And I said, all right. And he said, well, your dad didn't call me. I called your dad because I'm worried about you. And he thought I was going to be mad because he went off and called my dad and told my dad everything. But, like, at that point, like, I really didn't care, because just to know that, you know, my dad was willing to help me and not, like, disown me or something, really gave me a lot of hope at a point where, you know, there probably wasn't much time left. I mean, let alone I could die at any moment just from what I was doing every day, to the point where, you know, I'm thinking about ending my own life because I can't stand going on the way I was going. You know, my dad actually helped me get this apartment, and just at the right time, a point where I probably would have relapsed a lot sooner had I not been, you know, lucky enough to have this place.
Saw somebody posted something the other day that said,
Mom, I'm sorry of all the things I got into trouble for, but if it means anything, you don't know the half of it. And that's probably the way this is. I know some of the stuff. I know some of the trouble he's gotten into. I know that I've been with him through his recovery as much as I could. I helped him when he first went to the methadone clinic, and I helped him. We found a better way with Suboxone, and that worked for, I think, a good long time. And finally, he was through with it. And, I didn't understand it. I thought once you're off Suboxone, once you're cured, you're done. And that's not the way it is. It takes longer than that. It takes a lot more than that. I try to help him as much as I can. I've helped him a lot financially. I've helped him when he needed, so his health insurance and things like that. I've been with him when he's had other problems. A couple of times he put me in a situation where I probably was helping his addiction a little bit. I just tried not to as much as possible. I tried to help insofar as his other medical conditions and taking care of his son. But it's been difficult sometimes to figure out which is which. But I don't know, I've done the best I can. I hope that's enough.
Pain is a part of life, but nobody likes it. Nobody likes pain at all. We don't like not even a little bit of pain. We don't like hunger pains. We don't like love pains. We don't like breakup pains. We don't like loss pains. We don't like any pain. And when you're addicted to opioids, it's all of those pains. You've already experienced loss. You've experienced the loss of love. You've experienced loss of everything that you've desired. You experienced the loss of innocence. You don't even think you can go back to that person. Matter of fact, so bad that you don't even know what you want anymore, even if you wanted something.
Yeah, man, he had a shoestring around his neck. I couldn't even get my finger in between it. I took it off and fed him, and he's been my little buddy ever since. He said, "Screw you." So yeah, man, ain't a whole lot changed. I wish I could say more has changed, but it hasn't. You just gotta want change. You gotta want to change your lifestyle. You gotta want to change the way you're living. I've got kids, and I know they suffer because of my addiction, and that's my main reason for wanting change. They don't deserve. Not having a father like they should because I've got an addiction. No matter how hard it is on me or how bad it hurts me, they deserve better. So that's my main reason for wanting change. Is my kids, and I'm 40 years old, man. Can't live like this forever.
How do you feel?
Yeah, I get it right eventually, I get it right, and I got the want, and I just have to go for it,
What do you look forward to?
I can't wait till the day I wake up and not have to worry about having it, because I gotta have it in the mornings. I gotta have it, or I don't go to work. I have to wake up with something. If I don't wake up with something, then I'm not working that day, and that's a terrible way to be living, man. I can't wait to just wake up and not have to worry about it.
Hey, Louie, how are you?
I'm good. When I called you earlier, it's because I was looking for Graham. You just want to be rescued. You just want some sort of lifeline reaching out to you. But if hope is the only thing keeping you alive at that point in time, because everything else is saying go ahead and die. Nobody cares anyway. Nobody cares whether you live or die anyway. Matter of fact, it's better off if you just die. If you just disappear, go away, never even contact them again. They're all gonna be better off, but that's not true. That's not true at all. The way that you're kind of hoping that some miracle is gonna happen to you, they're actually hoping as well that something's gonna miraculously happen with you, that somehow you're gonna hear something or see something or feel something that's somehow gonna make a difference in what you're doing. Because everybody just knows the same thing. What you're doing is not working right now. Yeah, now you know how I'm feeling. That's why I had to get you on the phone, man. All right, so I mean, this guy has no clue. Right now, this guy right now, dude, he's spending hundreds of dollars every day. He's working his ass off every day just to make enough money to shoot up dope. And so he has no idea that behind the scenes, you guys are even doing this. You know what I mean? And so we're gonna offer it to him. And if he's willing to go get the help and if he's willing to get the treatment, then, you know, we need to activate everything we need to activate, like with you guys. So the reason I was calling you is because, you know, all right, well then let's get the process started. I need to have you on standby. And let me say within the next 2 hours.
Next 2 hours. All right, done.
All right, thank you,
That's
brother.
awesome.
All right,
Doug.
see you
Later.
Bye. All right. You know, because whatever he's doing right now, he's probably thinking, I got to get this money because tomorrow's going to hurt. I mean, right now that's what he's doing. He's working for tomorrow's money just so he doesn't hurt tomorrow. Let's do it. Give the guy a call, man. Let's go find Mike. Huh? I mean, I can offer free rehab to somebody and they'll start saying, but can I take my cell phone? Where is it? What does it look like? In 1 minute, you're saying, I'll do anything you want me to do. I just can't stay here anymore. Come get me. And then 5 minutes later, you're negotiating about, yeah, but can we stop by this place first? I got to do something first. Or can we do it tomorrow because oh yeah, I got to go do this first. You just can't even help your own brain. You start talking like this. And I hope someone listening can go back and remember how many times they called for help and say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and then all of a sudden hear themselves start negotiating some sort of thing like it has to look just like this for it to be help. Just minutes. Come on. All right, so now this is the exciting part. This is the part where, you know, you're able to offer a person an amazing opportunity. I mean, here, you guys meet this guy, you talk to him, you find out that he's using dope every day, doesn't want to keep using every day, spending an enormous amount of money. Everything he makes is just going to heroin. The next shot could be his last shot. They're on standby waiting for us to call, waiting for us to put him on the phone with admissions and kind of see if he qualifies, not only personally, if that's the right level of care for him, if that's the right situation for him, but also to make sure he wants this for real. One thing is saying it to a film crew. The other thing is making that decision to pack your bags. And I really hope he says yes. I just really hope he says yes. Is that him? That looks like a white van to me. How you doing, Mike? Finally get to meet you. How you doing, man?
Right,
doing good? All right, I don't know what they told you. Anyway, my name is Louis Delgado, and I like helping people. That's what we do in the foundation. We kind of help connect people to situations like treatment centers, whatever they need. You know, hear you out, you know, and whatever you need. It's like, you know, if there's anything we can do to help you, what is it? It's kind of what we do, right? I've been treating people for, you know, about 28 years. And so what I did is I contacted one of the facilities we work really closely with, and if it's the right fit for you, if you feel okay with it, and you do meet that level of, you know, that need for care, you know, at that level of care, they're willing to offer it to you, free of charge. How long have you been using, if you don't mind me asking?
Man, I started out with the pain pills probably about, I would say 12, 13 years ago. And I've been doing the heroin for probably about 5 or 6 years.
Okay. Have you ever tried to get clean before?
Yeah, I've gotten clean a couple times, relapse.
Okay. What's been that hiccup? What's been the reservation right there? What do you think it is?
Making the wrong choices, being around the wrong people, you know.
Okay.
I got clean, but I didn't change my people and places and things. And, you know, just getting back around the wrong crowd. And
did you go to rehab?
Slipping up. The closest I've ever been to rehab is just a detox. You know,
Okay.
They put you through for 7 to 14 days.
You're in for something.
That's Yes.
So you've never done counseling or anything? Outpatient?
No.
How do you feel about that? Like when I'm mentioning it, how do you feel about it?
I'm all for it.
For real?
Well, yeah, I'm all for it.
All for it to the point where you're willing to get on a plane tonight? That kind of all for it?
Yeah.
See that feeling you're feeling right there, Mike?
The only thing is I'm going through physical therapy right now for an accident I got into.
So we let them know?
Yeah, I'll jump on a plane tonight. Absolutely.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Absolutely.
I gotta tell you, Mike, I mean, we do a lot of these kinds of things, you know what I mean? But typically you guys are the ones asking. This time it was somebody outside of you asking. So I'm glad you said that. All right, you ready to let's get them on the phone. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, the first guy I'm gonna get on the phone.
I think that's what we can all do, is when you can sit down and you can have a conversation just to see if anyone needs your help or needs anything. I always tell people, even if you just refer someone to 211, you're helping someone. You're giving them an outlet or resource that maybe will lead to their son or daughter or family member getting, the assistance and the help they need.
How are you, sir?
Mike, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for taking my call, or at least for being willing to chat.
Absolutely, I appreciate the offer for help. Definitely.
This is the magic right here. I mean, everything is the fact that you have willingness to go. So,
There's no way we can define it where I think everyone will get it. I think what we just have to keep doing is just giving out messages all different kinds of ways, and just one person by one person by one person, just kind of get it.
We're just honored to be able to get you some help.
We need to be helping people wherever we can. And in the naloxone, that's one way of doing it. Taking the stigma away from the user is the big thing. An addict needs help, and people that care should try to help them, not cast them aside or look at them differently because they have an addiction problem. That ultimately would be nice to see a solution. Hopefully I'll see it one day.
All right. You excited, man?
Yeah.
Nervous too?
Yeah.
I know.
All right, thanks again, guys.
Hey, brother. Good luck, man. I'll see you.
Thank you, man.
I'll walk you up there.
All right.
Yeah. See you, bro.
The biggest thing that I was ever ashamed of has given me the most purpose in life, which is to help other people that are in the same position, that I was in. And as much as I help them, it helps me tremendously to be able to do that, and just to know, if I'm not careful, I could end up right back in their shoes.
We have a great group of treatment providers so people can get the help they need, and recovery is possible. So it's really that whole